This isn't gonna work well.
It's fun.
Sometimes he's naughty. Sometimes he's nice. But every time he's Dirt Guy. It's Dirt Guy Drive Time with your host, Dirt Guy.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dirt Guy Drive Time. I'm going to tell you right out of the chute that this is going to be another one of those religious, spiritual kind of episodes I told you we don't do here, but I feel inspired to do. So if that sort of thing doesn't work for you, or if you're going to be offended by somebody like me talking about something like that, feel free. I will not be offended if you just stop watching the video. All right? I'm telling you up front, so it's no bait and switch. I'll give you a minute to think about it. All right, so for those of you who are still with me, thank you for being here. A little bit of background real quick. Last night, Cindy Brown, my wife, the queen of everything, and I were sitting around just chatting, and we were just kind of a general discussion, and we're talking about how at times like this, like with this virus we've got, and the fear of the economy and people dying and all this tragic stuff, how people will sort of start maybe reevaluating their mortality, reevaluating their relationship with God, whomever they may call God. All right, I'm not here to have a theological debate with anyone about that. I'm just saying you're a great spirit. And as we were talking about that, I started getting the juices going again, because I've studied a lot about theology, and ever since I quit being a pastor, and my belief system has changed, but I've still been processing all of this. As some of you know, I've shared some of that with you. And so at one point, I just sort of stood up and I said, you know something? I really feel the call to preach again. But my problem is, preach what? Again, a belief system not quite what it used to be. I come up through Christianity, and some of the tenets of Christianity, I'm not gonna say I disagree with it. It's just not my thing right now. I just want to say that. It's just not my thing presently. But one of the things that we were talking about, and I'm going to make a shot at not really preaching, they call it having a talk now, okay? It's a talk. Is this verse from the Bible that people will recite at times like this. Now, here's the thing. There's holy books out there. There's the Bible, there's the Quran, there's the Torah, there's the ancient scriptures for the Indians, the Hindus, scriptures handed down by different priests and prophets and all this. So we've all got our holy book, I guess, if you have one. And for me, it's the Bible. That's what I grew up with. That's what I've studied. And so I think there's some insights I can get from there. And there's this one verse, and I actually preached a 6-part sermon series on this verse of the Bible, and it's a 2 Chronicles 7:14. And I know it by heart, although I may have just said that wrong. 2:14, 7:14. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me, and I don't have any notes. This just came to me while I was driving. So anyway, the verse goes like this: if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin and heal their land. Now, I think it's unreasonable, and I would disagree with someone saying that God makes something like this happen so that the whole world decides we need to turn back to God. When we start talking about God of love, God being our Father, this kind of thing, it just doesn't seem like taking the righteous down with the wicked fits that model. It doesn't fit that model to me. I think just sometimes what we're dealing with right now is stuff that happens. Life happens. People get involved in things, they screw things up, and things get out of control. And then we're left in this situation where people are either maybe one of 3 things. 1, just sucking on it. 2, blaming God for doing it. Or 3, saying, see, that's what happens. That's what God does when the world turns wicked. And So whatever your version of that is, it doesn't fit my model of God. So I think it just happens. But I don't think that changes the context of what I believe the Great Spirit is telling us in that verse. As inspired. I don't mean I'm looking at this verse saying God got a pen and a piece of paper and wrote this down and handed it to us. Now that's a whole nother debate. But for me, as an inspiration, as part of my attempts to communicate with the Great Spirit, I think it's relevant. So a real quick sort of breakdown of this deal from my experience and just my thoughts on it, okay? And it starts with if my people, and there's a lot of people who will say different people or God's people, but and again, depending on your belief, the children of God are God's people, if my people. Now, you can believe in evolution, you can believe in creation, but if down deep somewhere you believe in this divine presence and you're sort of born from that, I don't mean physical birth, I mean born from that, it's a kindred thing to you, then if my people is children of God, and hey, sue me if you think this is blasphemous, but Christians are children of God, the Jews are children of God, the Muslims are children of God, the Hindus are. If you're a human being, I think you're a child of God. But then it goes, who are called by my name. If my people who are called by my name. They're all of us who are children of God, in my belief, but not all of us accept that. So it's an interesting thing that happens here, and I'm sort of pondering this as I'm speaking to you, but if my people who are called by my name, I call myself a child of God, so I am a person that is called by God's name. There are other people, atheists maybe, people that just don't care, not called by God's name. If my people who are called by my name. And I think the interesting thing here is God, the Great Spirit, is looking in this passage of the Bible, looking for the people who are called by his name to take the next action, not the whole world. I think it places a responsibility on those of us who are called by that name. If my people who are called by my name, what are we called to do? What are we supposed to do? If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. It's interesting, I heard our president today, I watched a little clip of him talking about God, talking about prayer, talking about Easter. And if you'll forgive me, Mr. President, I never pictured you as one of those kind of people, but you seemed genuine when you were saying that. And you know, that's just one more of the stars aligning, I think. But this is a time of prayer. Right now, we're looking to masks and social distancing, and we're looking to blame somebody or whatever. We're freaking out, and I get that. But how many people are going to humble themselves and pray about it? Who even stops to think about praying about it? And on that note, why only pray in a time of disaster? Why only pray in a time of need or fear? Because frankly, I'm guilty of that. I'll be honest with you. My wife and I will pray before our meals. That's the time I give the Great Spirit the nod, and I thank God for the blessings, for my wife, for giving her such great gifting as a cooktress, I like to call her. Thank Him for our careers and for our home and all these things. So I spend that time saying thank you. More often than not, though, that's where it stops until my vice president, who is a friend of mine, is lying in a hospital bed with all of his organs failing, maybe getting ready to go meet the Great Spirit firsthand, and then you start crying out to God, save my friend. I think if we humble ourselves, in other words, we're giving a nod that there is something greater than us, and we cannot exist peacefully, successfully, happily without that intervention, without that comfort or that relationship. I think unless we're humbling ourselves to pray, it's escaping us. So if my people who are called by my name, It's up to the people who call themselves the children of God, not just the people who are. It's our responsibility to humble ourselves and pray. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. Seek my face. You know, that doesn't mean go looking for God. All right. Hey, look, there's God. Oh, I found God. No. Seek my face is embrace and know and understand God, in my opinion. What is it that God is saying to us? How is he reaching out to us? He's reaching out for a relationship with people, right? If you believe in some divine being that's not an authoritarian dictator, then this divine being is somebody we should be looking after, looking towards, engaging in our lives, communicating with. And again, I'm guilty of not doing that. I don't. Regardless of the specific tenets of my personal religious belief system, I don't do it. Seek my face. And this isn't turn from their wicked ways. You know, that's a pretty harsh language there. Turn from their wicked ways. And you know something? There's a whole thing that can be preached on sin and judgment and all this bullshit from turn from their wicked ways. But when we're all engaged in a time like this, and you see people being nicer to people, being more helpful to people, reaching out to people, that's turning from wicked ways, in my opinion. Because when we're all so busy doing our own thing that we're not helping the people who need help, the real people who need help. I don't mean people like I used to preach to that are looking for a handout and will sit through a freaking sermon to get it. I don't mean that. Being selfish, caring more about me, too busy to help you, being snotty, being bitter. Hell, some of the people that make comments on people's videos on YouTube, wicked people. They're wicked ways. It doesn't mean they're a wicked person. You know, think more about the global impact of the things that we do. And the people we hang out with, how are we going to support them, lift them up? Or am I, Steve Brown, am I too busy chasing a career and trying to make videos where I don't really engage anybody? I don't really have any friends. Am I being wicked? I don't know. But whatever the definition of wicked ways is for you, think about it. Think about what your great spirit would want you to do. Walk around cutting off the heads of the non-believers? Or perhaps rescuing an animal from a shelter? Perhaps treating animals like family. They're part of creation. I know there's so many things. I don't want to belabor the point. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven. If you do that, God's going to hear you. Is what this passage of scripture is saying. God will hear you. Your prayers won't fall on deaf ears. But then what's the expectation of what will happen there? If you're poor and you pray, God make me rich, will God make you rich? I don't see it happening that way. Because that's a selfish prayer, right? I don't, in my belief system, God doesn't answer selfish prayers. Be like, God, please give me a bigger house. God, please help that person to drop dead. Those are selfish prayers. What are some other prayers? You want God to hear your prayers from heaven, pray for our nation to be healed. Pray for people to be healed. Pray for relationships to be healed. Pray for wickedness to just go away. Mean people suck. Pray that the Great Spirit would contact them and change their heart. Humble yourselves and pray, then we'll hear from heaven. And the byproduct of all of that, forgive your sin, whatever your definition of sin is. I've got my own. It's not germane to this video. Cleansing, forgiving of sins. and then heal your land. You know, my president was talking about how there is this bond between sinful behavior and the land, and I don't disagree with that. But to heal your land, I mean, heal your area, heal your country, heal your nation, as the context of this scripture was written in my opinion. So I guess if I'm going to put any kind of summary on that, it's the first thing: don't let it get to the point where things are falling apart, and then you start praying, God help me, God help me, things are falling apart, I need your help, God help me. I'm not to say that God won't help you, but if my children only came to me with their hand out, my children never came to me to check on me and say, hey Pops, how's it going? Hey Pops, I love you. Hey, I just called you for no reason to catch up. Or to say, you know, if I do this, my dad's gonna be disappointed. Whatever. How does that work? I know it doesn't work for me. I think I'm going to upscale the time I spend in prayer, in my belief system. I'm going to humble myself, and I'm going to pray more often. I'm going to try to find the good that can be done. I'm going to try to put good into the world. I'm not going to be mad at God for all the crap that's happened to me, or for all the crap going on in this planet. I'm not going to blame God. Shit happens. Anyway, that's my recap. You know, I encourage you to do whatever it is you do to get better connected with whoever you believe is God, and not let it just wait for a time when everything's falling apart. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and I'll forgive their sin, and I'll heal their land. Take from that what you will. I appreciate you listening to the first sermon I've preached in about 5 years. And until the next time I see you, my name is Steve Brown. Be well, everybody.